Steve. Welcome to the Talent Show. Thanks for joining me today.
You bet, bud. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Everybody, thank you for hopping on. If you get a chance to watch live, you're lucky. You're going to start your day with a lot of energy and a lot of insight. If you're just joining us, thank you very much. This is episode number 5 of the Talent Show. I'm happy to bring you good friend, local real estate agent and expert, Steve Laret. Steve, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you do, what your talents are, and we'll get started here.
Yeah, my name's Steve Laret. I run the Steve Laret team with Vanguard Realty Alliance here in Westchester. We cover a lot of Chester, Delaware, Montgomery County. We try to stay hyper local where we're experts. And I've been in the business over a decade now, and it's been a wild ride. I think it's about to get even crazier. We've had a lot of success. We're, as a team, we are in the top half of the top 1% of all realtors to hold a license. It's not really saying all that much. We'll get into that a little bit later. But we have had a lot of success. And we really, I think the key to that has just been sort of intentionality and willingness to take it further for our clients than most people do. I think realtors are consistently thinking about getting the deal across the finish line. We don't like transactions that just culminate in closings. We want massive, disproportionate wins for our clients. And it's Machiavellian in origin. It's not even for them, it's for us. We want to win massively. We're very competitive, and we want to go the extra mile for all of our clients. We take it personally. That's just definitely not about the money at this point. It's just more about winning. And I think that's sort of what keeps us sharp, no matter how much success or how little success we're having. That's what drives us.
I think that's important, Steve. I tell it to my clients all the time, and I kind of buffer it by saying this is lip service until you see it, but I'm not worried about the transaction. That's going to happen. I got to bring you extraordinary value, and I have to help you win big. I mean, that's literally what I tell people. So I knew we were connected. So so let's just get right into what's happened. I think you're setting up your team to be very successful. And I listen, I know about your story and getting into the business, but the times are coming, right? You talked about I took it off my whiteboard, but over 1 million or so homes sold.
There's over
or agents. Go ahead. Maybe I'll stop trying to be the expert here. Why don't you tell us about what's coming to the purge and why your agents with that type of mindset, right, for their winning for their clients and just being obsessed with winning, is going to be important coming up here.
Yeah. Right now, currently, we had our best year in business in 2020, despite the lockdown and all of that. Homes are still selling. We did really, really well. In the stark fact, we had our last settlement April 20th. We have nothing on the books to close for the rest of the year right now. We're a team of 5. And like I said, we're in the top half of the top 1% across the country. So right now, it caused me to dive in because that's an eerie halt in business and production. And so I did a little bit of research. There are currently more than 2 million realtors licensed in the United States. And all of last year, there were only 840,000 homes sold, meaning we have more than 2 licensed agents for every 1 house that was sold last year. So looking into the future, what's that? I lost you.
Sorry, what's that mean for the home buyer, Steve? I don't mean to get you off track, but what's that mean for the home buyer?
Well, it's incredibly competitive. I mean, we in the last 18 months, really in the last year since the pandemic began, it went from people would say, I'll never buy a house virtually. The first lockdown, everybody said, I'm not buying a house virtually. No way. And then I think it was the second extension when they, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, total horse shit. And then you go, they have their first extension and everybody gets like, whoa, wait a minute. What's going on? I can't believe this is getting extended. And then by the second extension, all of our clients went from I'll never buy a house virtually to they're seeing homes still being sold throughout that time. So they're recognizing that their competition is purchasing them and they're missing out on opportunities. And then it was like a heart switch. Everybody suddenly starts buying houses virtually. That was the first major paradigm shift in real estate last year. And then it wasn't very long before inspections were waived. Buyers started going and waiving all inspections.
Wow.
And then It went from waiving all inspections, which as someone who prides themselves on being a responsible advocate for our clients, that suddenly goes out the window, and you have very few checks and balances to ensure client safety. If someone is buying in a well-documented subdivision, in other words, if they're buying in a neighborhood and there's 25 other homes that have sold in the last 5 years within that neighborhood, you can go back and track those sales and say, all right, very few of them have blown up in inspections, and there are very few documented concessions on record. And so you can sort of make a reasonable assumption that the home will be safe, and all of those things.
Clients better be obsessed with winning too.
And that's right. You're doing right about that. So then we go from waiving all inspections to suddenly the market, the prices are raising so quickly. Normally you have a standard check and balance. You have the appraisal, which lags slightly behind an accelerated market value because they're retroactive. But now you have these prices rising so quickly, and then buyers are not only saying, "Hey, we recognize that it's not going to appraise." So if we pay $350, if we agree to pay $350, and the appraisal comes in at $310, we'll bring the other $40,000 to settlement to bridge the gap for that appraisal discrepancy. That all happened in the space of 12 months, where it went from these things never happen. People never buy homes virtually. They never waive all inspections. And they never, never, never bring the money to bridge the gap from the appraisal to the offer price. And suddenly that's commonplace. That all happened in the last 12 months. People and the driving force is supply and demand. It is, we are 10 million homes behind the national market. And so in order to correct that balance in supply and demand, we would have to build what we normally build every year, plus 1 million homes. We'd have to do that for a decade strong to correct that supply and demand, to balance that out. And the kicker is building materials are up 238%. Lumber's up 238%. Plywood used to be $15 a sheet. It's $65 now. So are we really going to build an additional 1 million homes every single year when building costs are through the roof?
Yeah.
Even if we did, the price of those homes, because the cost of materials would be through the roof, and that would further drive prices up. So for buyers right now, you had better be willing to slit your grandmother's throat and crawl over her body to get a house.
Yep. And you better make sure that when you interview your 3 agents, it's not somebody who's going to be out of the business in 6 months because the going got tough. They didn't do the hard work to prepare for the purge, and they're not going to survive it. Heck, they might even see it coming around the corner, and after you pick them to be your agent, they're sending an email into Trader Joe's saying, "How quickly can you hire me? I can't take it anymore." I'm serious, right? And this is somebody going, no, Steve, I'm serious, right? Because on the other end, okay, after that phone gets hung up and that agent sends his resume to Trader Joe's, there's a husband and a wife and maybe some kids and, a whole family behind them. And they're telling a story, and it's a pretty story. And I want to see it have a lot less heartbreak because I have a ton of friends through no fault of their own, right? And I'm not blaming it on the agent or anything. I'm just saying the market is hot and people are losing homes that they saw themselves in and had every right to do that. Maybe there's just little corrections or little extra things that they can do to make sure they're in a good position, right? So, having the right agent's important. And let's talk about your team and how they're connecting with their clients, Steve. Maybe we go back to how you learn to connect with your clients, or back to your roots, right? Maybe some of the connections that got you started. How you knew that this was something that you had a deep burning desire to be successful in, and how you knew that you wouldn't be somebody kind of turning around and packing it in on your clients, right? Take us back to what made you know that this was a good move.
Yeah, I was always in sales from the time I was a child, knocking on doors, selling Boy Scout candy or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I was a musician career, until I was about 30. I traveled around the world playing music. And so I think I honed a lot of my sort of intrinsic understanding of people and all of that at those shows. You're in a strange town, you're reading everybody's lips, everybody's body language, and all of that. So I did a lot of that, and it became a hobby because playing sort of was second nature. It can get boring, and so I was more interested in what was going on with people. And when I got into business, I didn't get into the real estate business right away. I didn't get into the real estate business until I was 30. I'm 40 now. I was really 29, I guess. But I had several other businesses prior, and I've always been very low tech, partly because I have zero talent there. And I'm not like when I was a kid, I had the Nintendo, right? AD and the Cross. That was good. I was really good at that. My next door neighbor and best friend got the Sega. It had 4 buttons and the wheel. I started playing him in hockey, and I'd be like, this is bullshit. Video games are crap. I'm done. So I've been low tech since like day one. And so for me, it's always been the only way to do it was always personal connection. It was always, what other people would see is oh, you can automate that. To me, that's a dirty word. I've always been keep in contact, form real relationships, and just really care more deeply, I think, for people. I have very little empathy for some reason, but I have a large bandwidth for people that I respect and a great desire to help. So for me, it's just always been about making a deep personal connection with the people that I come into contact with that I see value in. Systematization and all of that has its place, but I really try to lean into the team to really just care more. Call up that person that's having a bad day. Send them a lasagna. Get them out for coffee. Take them out for a beer. Somebody that's under it. You know what I mean? Whatever. They just had a kid. They're sick. They come down with COVID. Whatever it is. Send them a grocery run. These are things that I think people think about doing but don't do often enough. And we try to really just act on every impulse that we have to make a difference or a greater difference than maybe just lip service in somebody's life.
I bet you see things pop up in your favor where it almost looks like magic just from doing that, just from being active.
Yeah, well, activity is a big part of it. I try to talk to the team about prospecting because I got into this business. It was all phones. I was on the phone 8 to 10 hours a day, and the only thing that took me off of the phone was lunch or an appointment.
Yeah. I remember those days.
It was terrible, right? I mean, cold calling is such a funny thing because no one wants to do it and no one wants to have it be done to them. And yet we all force ourselves into this like jamming an elephant through the eye of a needle to find business, doing this very unfortunate thing. The mass telemarketing days they're still alive. Because if people aren't going to walk into your office to find you, you have to talk. You have to go find them. You have to talk to them. And that's one of the easiest ways to make a lot of contacts in one day and all of that. But it's such a strange thing. You don't want to do it and they don't want it to be done to them. And somehow you're supposed to meet on that battlefield and choose to do business together. It's a very odd relationship. But, I try to stress to the team. I do a lot of door knocking because I like to get out. And I like to feel the energy. I like to be moving and that just, you're out in the sun. It's good. It's good for your energy, all these things. It's never, I don't know that I can trace back a single listing or win to door knocking. I don't think I've ever knocked on anybody's door and they've been like, oh my gosh, Steve Laret, thank you so much. I've been waiting for you. Come on in, price my house. Let's sell it. It's never happened. And I don't, I've gotten leads from cold calling, but it's the culmination of doing all of those things that I feel just lifts your energy in action. And then you're open to receive opportunity. Preparation is when, good luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And if we're prepared and we're doing consistent work, whether it's on the phone, out in public, door knocking, networking, whatever it is, the culmination of those things tend to raise your energy. And that's when opportunity happens.
Go ahead.
No, I just try to stress that to the team that it's seldom I did this and got this. It's I do all of these things because I've been doing it for long enough to know that somehow it's all going to connect. It's all going to work out. And if you do enough of that, you'll win. And so I just try to disconnect them from the result of any one action. You just have to remain in action and consistent and favorable. And if you do that, the goods will come.
Yeah, and it takes a special person to stay on track, but good things happen. Maybe you have a good story about you coaching somebody on your team who was maybe struggling and had good fortune come their way through the culmination of all those actions and the grit, or maybe something that happened to you?
Yeah, I mean, we've so many good stories. I think that the thing that really sidetracks people is when they don't know what to do, they don't do anything. And then they feel bad about not doing anything. And it lowers their entire frequency.
Spirals.
And so I think moreover, I guess the most relevant example that I can give is we're looking into the fire, right? We have 0 settlements on the books. That's crazy. That's like the scariest thing in the world. There's 5 people on the team. We have 0 settlements. That means right now in the foreseeable future, we have no money coming in. So yesterday, I organized a call session. I'm going to be in the office every single day this week from 9 till noon. The whole team is going to join me. And from that call session, not only do they get to hear me on the phone, see me doing the work that they don't want to do, really. But then, I get a call after from Jesse, who is showing a property in Aston, who calls me up and says, "Oh man, I just feel so good. I just spent an hour door knocking the neighborhood before my showing." So it's about the energy that's created from doing the work. No matter what the result is, if you did the work that day, you feel good. You don't have this negative drag on your psyche, like, the world is ending and I don't know what to do about it, and I didn't do anything about it today. And so I just feel badly. It's a cycle that perpetuates itself. And if you're just doing the work, good things will happen, and you will feel so much better about the journey than sitting around waiting for lightning to strike you and business to come.
Yeah, you create your own luck by being active, right? It just doesn't happen. I think that's a great story, man. There's so many, like, I know that there's so many of them, right? You have an interesting friend who helped you. I don't want to force this in there, but I'm interested in you talk a little bit about, like, you have a mentor that kind of helped you in the publishing business or helped you get into pushing yourself out there. I know that was a big turning point in your life. Do you mind going into that a little bit and what that meant for your career? Yeah.
I was in, I was in North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina. And a friend of mine is Dr. David Friedman. He's the chiropractor to the stars. A lot of people don't know Wilmington, North Carolina. They consider it Hollywood East, or at least they used to.
Oh, really? So why don't we know this? I wish I knew this.
I feel like everybody down there knows, but a lot of people up here, I didn't know. Maybe everybody knows, but I didn't. Anyway, they call it Hollywood East. They do a ton of filming there. For movies, for TV shows. I think Dawson's Creek was filmed there. One Tree Hill was filmed there. Like, whatever, a bunch of proper shows. But they do a lot of filming. So a lot of movie stars are down there and come through town a lot. And this guy, Dr. David Friedman, is a chiropractor, and he is the chiropractor to the stars. They all know him. And so he has a remarkable journey in and of itself. He started an MLM company for a product that he designed. It was a chewable multivitamin, and I won't go into the science behind that, but he's brilliant, man. And he grew this MLM company. His guys were making like $300,000 a week. I mean, it was crazy. This is back in the 90s, early 2000s. Anyway, so he had this company, Choose for Health. I was in real estate. I'd just gotten done running a team in Anchorage, Alaska, and my wife wanted some sun. So we moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, lived at the beach, and I got licensed down there. And I was talking to him about selling he had a couple of beachfront condos, and he was my chiropractor. And so we met for lunch one day. We started talking, and really the whole lunch turned into this chatter about this company, Choose for Health, that was not doing well at the time. The MLM thing was abandoned, and I forget the reasoning behind that, but nonetheless, he had this production facility. And he had a good following, and they were selling, but he had this total chooch running the company, and he was overpaying him, and he just was lazy, and it was terrible. And at the time, I just got into Wilmington, North Carolina. I was hearing the money he's paying this guy to do what he was doing. I was like, this is insanity. I was like, I will come do it for half, and I'll do twice the work and a better job. And so I ended up going to work for this company, Choose for Health, and basically brought me in as a consultant. And I fired this CEO that he had that wasn't worth 3 letters of the alphabet. and took over production in that facility, and ultimately ended up negotiating a merger between him and a product rollout. I think we had it teed up with Market America. It was so long ago now, I can't even remember all of those companies. But it was another big MLM firm that I was able to orchestrate rolling his product into their product line. Anyway, he was a great friend, and we did a lot of work together down there, and we just kept in touch over the years. He's somebody that is just doing huge things. He has a syndicated radio show on it's called To Your Good Health Radio on iHeartRadio. He's now written a #1 New York Times bestseller called Food Sanity. So he's just, he's been on all the morning shows, and he's just this force. This guy's about 5 feet tall, 90 pounds soaking wet, but he's just an absolute force. And we just kept in touch over the years, and I started doing Facebook videos about 2 years ago. It's just quick 30-second clips about the state of the industry. And he started watching the Facebook videos, and he called me up one day and said, man, he's like, you've got to write a book. You've got to get a podcast going. You've got to do these things. You have that it thing. And you need to get it out there, and you need to do this. And so I started looking into the podcast. The it thing that I don't have is execution, by the way. So I've begun writing the book. I'm well deep into that. But I haven't executed on the rest of these things because we've been really busy selling real estate, and that's my excuse. We've been too busy being successful to do all of these things that I've been told I should do. And I do enjoy doing them. It's just a consistency thing, and I haven't made enough room in my life. But Doc is just a powerful force who's driving, pushing me. He's like, you need to write a book, and this is what it should be about, and let's do this thing. And he's just a rocket,
Steve, that's great that you had somebody that pushed you out of your comfort zone, right? I mean, it's not that you don't execute in general. It's that you're getting, ramped up here. And I think you know that. Sure. But why do you think, what is it that put you in a position where when you're having lunch that day, you didn't have the thing on your left shoulder saying, nah, Steve, don't put your neck out. Just, you're his client, just kind of lay back on the table next week and, keep your head down in real estate.
Sure. So my start in business was interesting. I never went to college. I went to like 15 different colleges because I played music, and it was wonderful. But I didn't go to college. I was a musician. I decided I was going to get out of music when I was about 27. I got out of my last record deal, and I started bartending. And there was a guy that would come into my bar every day. He'd just be fogging up the glass at 10:45, and we would open at 11. He's at the door, like looking at, and he would get 2 bourbon and the same burger every day. And he was just miserable. He was an older guy. He's like 67, and he's always rubbing his head, just like, always seemed under it. And I had just read Think and Grow Rich. And that was the book that changed my life. I just read Think and Grow Rich, and I peeled the onion on this guy. And what's the problem? He's like, oh, my business is losing money. This is going on. He was always complaining about his business. Meanwhile, I had read this book, and so I started to talk to him, and I said, I can help you. I didn't know that I could help him, but I knew that I was willing to work hard enough to find out. And so I said, look, hire me for free. I'll come work for you for a month for free. And at the end of the month, I'll present you with 3 business plans, and I'll tell you where your money's going. And so I went, and so it was about 6 months I hounded this guy while I'm his bartender. And then finally I got to meet the boss, his wife, who was 10 years younger than him and had loaned the business a bunch of money, and she was a tough cookie. And so I met with her, and I said, look, I'm willing to come work for free and tell you where your money's going, tell you what the problem is. And they asked me, why do you think you'll know anything about this and all of that? And I just said, I don't. I'm just a smart guy, and I'll figure it out. And you're going to get the option to do it, and it's going to be free for you, and that'll be that. So ultimately, they agreed to let me come in and work. I convinced them to come work for them, and they wouldn't let me work for free, so they paid me $500 a week. And this was back in, I want to say this was, it had to be 08, 07, 08. And so it was a commercial printing business in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I went to work for him, and I came to find out his employees didn't know anything about, overhead. If a job came in the door and the paper for the job cost $10 and they charged $11, they thought they made $1. I mean, they were all overpaid. And what I came to understand was Bill, the guy that owned this thing, was really overpaying his employees who didn't know anything about business to run his business into the ground in lieu of him actually being there and running. He was older. He didn't want to do it anymore, but he wanted to be seen making an effort. So he was overpaying these people ridiculous sums of money to put the business into the ground. So I went in, I worked, and at the end of the 3 months, I came up with 3 business plans for him. And I said, look, the first one is you fire everybody, shut this thing down, and rent the space. You prime real estate on Bridge Street. We'll throw a brewery in here. We'll find a tenant. And you go from hemorrhaging money in the red to instantly in the black. And you don't have to deal with any of this anymore. Sell all the equipment. Get rid of the employee. You'll be fine. Right? You're looking to retire anyway. Just rent the space. The second business plan was do that, but then you're zoned for 4 stories and you only have 1 on Bridge Street. So I'll find a developer to come in and develop 4 condos above, the 4 floors of condos above, retrofit this space. We'll maintain ownership of the commercial space downstairs and take the rent on that. And we'll take a piece of all the condo sales above. And you'll instantly go from the red to the black. All of these were better options than the one that he chose. The third option was sign over 49% of the company to me today, and I will do all of these things for you. I will fire everybody that needs to be fired, and I'll find another company that actually understands how to run a commercial printing company, has lower overhead, which will enable us to offer more competitive pricing. And we'll take our book of business, which at that time is about $500,000 worth of business a year, over to this other printer. We'll act as a broker. We'll just take a percentage. We'll let them worry about running the business, actually printing and running the shop and carrying the overhead and all of these things. And we'll just sell. And we'll take 20%. He chose to do that. We signed over 40. So here I go. I'm a career musician at 27. I get out of that record deal. I become a bartender. I rethink and grow rich. I find a guy that comes into my bar whose business is struggling. I convince him to let me come in and work for him for free. And within the space of a year, I own half of his company that makes $500,000 a year. And then but the key ingredient here is I executed on all of that. I immediately went to work. I found a company called Donnelly Design and Print that was out of Malvern, negotiated a very favorable deal for us. And we did exactly what I said we were going to do. And so I took him successfully from the red to the black in a very, very short amount of time. And we succeeded. We won. And that to me was the biggest thing. I was like, wow, okay. I've been thinking about business for about 2 years and I just pulled this off. And then the printing business is going away faster than you can clap your hands. So I wasn't, as a young man, I wasn't going to put work my ass off to put my stamp in that business. And so I sold my bit of the company to the new partner, Donnelly. And Krista Stefano is still a good friend to this day. And I went on my way into other ventures. So that's why I don't have that person on my shoulder saying, don't get involved. That's, stay in your lane. My lane, I think, and my passion is really helping people optimize their businesses. A lot of people, especially business owners, can't see the forest through the trees. And I have I think a strong ability to be above the business sort of from a thought perspective and say, hey, if we just move these pieces around, you're going to make more money and be more successful. And that's really super fun to me. Way more fun than being an expert negotiator and all of that stuff. I love consulting on businesses. That's like my favorite hobby.
Gotta get creative. I mean, listen, it's a creative mind. That's ideas are not in short supply. The people that have them are just not allowing themselves to share them, right? So that's why I wanted to have you on today, Steve, because I think you got a great story of leaning into who you are, leaning into your strengths, doing the work to understand what your strengths are and develop them and to be able to put them into practice. And you've opened up an opportunity for you to have a business that's meshed with your family. So maybe we can end, because that's a good why, right? If people are figuring out, why should I maybe lean out? Why should I, go out and make a phone call to somebody I haven't talked to in a while? Not for business or prospecting, just because shit, I haven't talked to them in a while and I should, right? It's brought you to a nice place where you get to have your family and your business kind of as one.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's an amazing thing. So maybe we can wrap up and you can describe how that's been for you. Cause I know it's gotta be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we started our company. I stopped working for other teams and started our company in 2017. And since then our trajectory has, gone up very quickly. And we've had a lot of fun, and I've gotten to live the best, most fulfilling life that I could fathom, in that I get to spend a lot of time with my kids. I work a lot and I spend a lot of time. They always talk about a life in balance. That's total bullshit. By the way, like, it's not a life in balance. It's extreme focus on work and then extreme focus on family.
Yes.
It's not multitasking simultaneously. It's lopsided, but I've really gotten to experience an amazing life and an amazing, I get to see my kids grow up. My wife gets to be home with those kids, and it's just been wonderful. The big why question to me, I've always thought that is just such a black hole of bullshit for so many people to fall into. They spend all this time pondering, what's my big why? What's my big why? In my mind, everybody's big why is money. Because if you had enough money to do whatever you were passionate about, you would do that all day. So at the end of the day, it's nice to connect like your business to, I really love helping people. I do. I really love winning for people that wouldn't have been able to get this done without me. I like getting something done for somebody that everybody else said, you can't buy a house, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I really love getting it done for those people. I love that. But if there wasn't a paycheck attached to it, I'd go do something else, something less complicated, something less difficult. So I think the big why question is sort of a trap for everybody, because what's my big why? Geez, and they spend all this time trying to, land on this huge, broad concept. Newsflash: everybody's big why is money. Because if you love people and you had $30 million, you'd take 20 million of it and you'd donate it to orphans in Africa or whatever you're passionate about, right? It's money. So I've been fortunate enough to make enough money to where I can spend time with my family and not feel the pressure of I need to go make more money. I've been fortunate enough that time spent with my family can be at the beach, because I can afford to go get a beach, a beach house or whatever for the week or whatever. So it's all about money. Money is the thing that gives us the opportunity to maximize quality time with our family, so that we can actually spend time with our family and not be possessed and thinking about, oh my God, I'm here with my family at the zoo, but I really should be fucking making money. I really need to get this done or that done or whatever, because the checking account is low. It's about money. So I'm super excited about the challenge in front of us, because it's going to be a return to desperate days for me. And in this business, if I'm desperate, a lot of people are done. They're dead. If I'm gasping for air, they've already hung up their license. So
Amen.
I'm going to work super hard this year for probably 25% of what I made last year. And life is going to get tough again. But I'm excited to rise to the challenge. I'm excited to do the work. I'm excited to show the team that they can do the work. And at the end of it, there's going to be massive success, and we'll all get enough money together to live the life we want to live, to spend the time with the people we want to spend it with, and not be worried about money, and be able to make it quality and all of that. Everybody wants to spend time with their family. And if we were all independently wealthy, that's what we would do. So you just have to go out there and make enough money so you can make that a reality.
People, you don't know the next connection that is going to give you the inspiration to go chase that money so that you can have the freedom that you want. Everyone can be rich. I think that kind of sounds icky, right? But it's true, right? Part of what the world is that we experience today is one of infinite possibility. You don't have to dive into the tech business and go on a 7-year trajectory, to rise up that, experience ladder, or even get into the real estate business. There's probably something else that's very close to you. You don't have to reinvent yourself. Just get in touch with yourself and be willing to lean into that for the good reason, right? I mean, that's a great, Steve. I'm glad that you shared that. Thank you so much for coming on today, man. I really appreciate it. I think that's some wise words to share with the people. Listen, Steve, when people share their talents, magic happens. I know some magic's going to happen when people see what we talked about today. I had a good time. So
I love it.
Thanks for coming on.
So much.
Yeah, man. We will talk soon. Take care, bud.
You got it, brother. Take care. Cheers.